Seasoner
and Co.
Welcome to Second-Hand Haunting, where we read ghost stories from a second-hand book I found in a second-hand shop in the UK and try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
In the UK.
Fun of them. What? Yeah. Well, guess what, Ollie?
What's that?
It's the same book as last week.
Okay. But you were tracking it across the UK?
Yeah.
And make it sound like you were tracking across like the Amazon rainforest or something, like tracking across the UK. Sifting through the various little stalls.
Sifting through the extremely well-organised second-hand bookshops in London, yes.
Yeah, how many were there? Wall-to-wall bookstores?
I mean, there's like a street that's just used bookstores.
Really?
Yeah. It rules. Spent a whole afternoon there. It was wonderful.
I feel like that's pretty impressive considering that I didn't think that London was that big. I've never been.
Oh, it has more than one street.
Does it?
And also, yes, London's pretty fucking big.
Okay.
It's kind of famous for being a very big city.
Okay, sure.
Look, granted, there's bigger now.
No, I'm just wondering, like, what's something that you would compare it to? Like, have you been to somewhere else that's big? Because I've never been. I was just wondering if there's somewhere you'd been.
I mean...
Like, besides Adelaide, because, like, you know, that's where we are.
Oh, it's bigger than any Australian city, for sure.
Bigger than any Australian city? So
Yeah,
bigger
of
than
course.
Sydney and bigger than Melbourne?
Yes.
Melbourne's quite big.
Look, I think Paris probably has some claim to big citydom.
I've never been there either.
But, London's more interesting.
Well, look, I thought...
Suck at Paris.
I thought Melbourne might be quite big, because not necessarily just the city, because there's just sprawl. It goes out for a while.
If you're taking suburbs into account, then yes, the suburbs of Melbourne might be bigger than the CBD of London. So now that we have established the size of London, had dinner, and been interrupted by a neighbour in no particular order...
And London is big.
Shall we crack on with the story today?
Okay.
One of two I have for you.
Ooh.
And you're not going to get a choice which way we do these. Our first story today is going to be The Amorous Ghost of Hove.
Ooh. It's funny, because I normally get a choice. It's different.
No. Well, you don't need to make a choice. You're getting them both.
Well, I know, but I didn't get to choose which one came first, you know?
Oh, too bad. I'm in control of this here podcast.
You know what? I wasn't going to make this joke, but you just kept pushing, so I'm going to make this joke. Now, you could be a dominatrix. you're like coming in. Like, maybe that's another career option for you.
Now, I think you'll find that the tricks at the end of dominatrix indicates the feminine version. I am a dominator.
Is that an actual title? Could I Google that?
Let's not.
Okay.
Listener at home, if you want to, safe search on.
All right.
Now, I forget if we actually mentioned the name of the book earlier. It is The Hag of the Dribble and Other True Stories from the Files of Elliott O'Donnell, which has been collated by Bernhardt J. Hurwood. After one of my talks in London last year, Mrs. Edward Ball of Richmond told me the following experience which she had a few years ago in Hove. She was staying one July in an apartment house near the seafront. Happening to look out of her sitting room window at about 11 o'clock one sunny morning, she saw a rather stout elderly gentleman approach the house. He had a round, rubicund face and wore a white flower in the buttonhole of his fashionable coat. He saw her and smiled in the most friendly manner.
Well, I'm glad somebody's still inebriated.
Oh, this elderly gentleman?
No, I meant you.
Oh. Is if you weren't aware, rubicund means like ruddy or red, so he's flushed red-faced, or...
Yeah, well, up to a point I was imagining a Santa-like character, because it was like a round belly and ruby cheeks.
You can do that if you want.
But then you described his outfit, and it didn't quite fit.
No, Santa doesn't really have a fashionable coat, does he? Nor have we got a large beard on this man.
Ah, well, that's what makes a true Santa.
Let's just hope we don't get any of his presents.
You let your imagination run wild there.
I'm not going to. She heard the front door open and someone enter the house. A few moments later, the door of her room opened, and the elderly gentleman poked his head in and smiled and nodded.
So back up a second, like, I saw someone just like coming to her door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now he's like peeking in somewhere? Was he invited in? Is that what happened? Did I miss a beat? I feel like I missed a beat.
No, I think you've got the measure of it.
Okay.
He has just walked into her apartment building and then walked into her apartment room.
Oh, okay. Through the door?
Yes. She did open the door.
Alright, so some just rando has just like walked into a house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scarier than any ghost.
Yeah, terrifying.
She was about to speak when she heard voices in the hall, and he quickly withdrew and closed the door. She thought it rather odd, but supposed he had mistaken her for someone else. I guess that's a fair assumption, keeping in mind that this is the kind of house where it's run by someone and you rent a single room. So there's people coming and going. It's like a little hotel situation.
Mm-hmm.
This is apparently before people invented locks on doors, but I'll let that slide.
Okay.
Locks did exist, it's fine.
I thought so,
Yeah. People have known how to lock doors for quite a while.
Right, so you just saw that perplexed look on my face, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next day, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she was going up the hall staircase to her bedroom, on the next floor, when she heard footsteps behind her. And, on glancing around, she saw the elderly gentleman a few stairs in her rear. He still wore a white flower in his buttonhole and, to her indignation, smiled amorously at her. She was about to say, "How dare you follow me?" when someone on the landing spoke to her. It was Mrs. Ward, a lady who was staying in the house. She turned to speak to Mrs. Ward, and when, on reaching the landing, she looked to see if the rubicund old gentleman was still pursuing her, there was no sign of him.
So he was a ghost.
Or he's very quick on his feet to escape when somebody else shows up.
Right.
Neither is a good sign, really.
I was going to say, like a true stalker. Yeah.
Yeah. She did not see him again for several days, and was congratulating herself on having got rid of him, when he again put in an appearance. She had been out shopping one morning, and on returning to the house and entering the sitting room, she saw to her great surprise the amorous old man calmly sitting in an armchair. His bulging blue eyes gleamed passionately, and he pushed a pudgy hand at her.
Romantic. Not romantic. I was trying to be sarcastic. Yes, yeah.
I hope so.
Yes, I was trying to be sarcastic.
You don't generally pick up women by shoving your hand at them.
No, especially... No.
Stop it.
I said nothing. I said, no, that is definitely not the case. So, no, it's surprising because I got a bit confused when this apparently got into a house and then she's seen him again and hasn't immediately, called the police. So, when they had police, right?
Yes, I assume so.
Bobby's?
Again, it doesn't say when this existed, but it's within Elliott O'Donnell's lifetime. So, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Do you know they were named Bobby's because, the first, a head of police called Robert?
I can believe that.
Yeah. Robert something.
No, it's before surnames invented. It's just Robert.
I think it was Bob's Men. They were called Bob's Men.
Oh.
And then they just got shortened to Bobby's.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Olly was referring there to Sir Robert Peel, who established London's Metropolitan Police in 1829. Fun fact, they were also called Peelers for a little while. Well, as fun as early policemen could be. As fun as any policeman can be, really.
Oh, I just love etymology. Yeah.
She went in a fury to Mrs. Smith, the landlady, complained vehemently about the old man, and told her to order him out of her room, or she would leave at once. Looking very pale and agitated, Mrs. Smith went to the sitting room, and in a few moments returned. "There's no one there," she said. "I have a strange tale to tell you, Mrs. Ball. This house..."
I think she should still leave immediately.
No matter what is going on, do not stay in this house.
No.
"This house is my livelihood. I have very little private means, and before I begin my story, will you promise to regard what I have to say as strictly confidential?" Mrs. Ball promised. And frankly, I think Mrs. Ball lied, considering she eventually told Elliott O'Donnell about it.
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, Mrs. Smith began, Mr. Price, the old gentleman you have described, took 2 rooms. He seemed a very nice gentleman, he gave me no trouble, was very free with his money, and a general favourite with visitors and servants. I hoped he would stay with me for a long time. When he had been here about a month, your rooms were taken by a very smart, attractive young widow. 3 days after her arrival, she came to me and said, Mrs. Smith, will you please tell that awful old man on the floor above me to stop coming into my room and following me about the house?
Just shocking stuff, by the way.
Yeah. Even when this man was alive, when this man was here previously, he's acting extremely inappropriately.
Extremely inappropriately. Creepy. Gross.
Amorous.
Makes me even feel like it creeps me out listening to it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Like, axe murderer sounds less creepy.
If this were made into a movie, do you think this man would be played by Mike Myers? Or is he more Michael Myers?
I think more Michael Myers.
Yeah, okay.
I would hate to see such a great actor playing such a horrible character. I mean, he did play the character that ate babies. Like, I don't get but that was a creepy character.
I'm more hung up on you calling him a great actor. I mean...
You don't think Michael Myers is a great actor? You don't think Austin Powers is a great movie?
Yeah.
How was it the So I Married an Axe Murderer?
I haven't seen it.
Good times.
I feel like I should.
I loved it. I thought it was really great. No, I think Mike Myers is one of the greatest actors of all time.
Oh, fucking... Get out of here. Get...
I guess it depends on what you're into. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you know, from a comedy perspective, like, he's a comedian, he's a comic actor. I don't know if he's ever even been in a serious movie as like a serious actor. But as a comedy actor...
briefly in Inglourious Bastards, but whether you call that a serious film is a different matter.
Exactly right? So from my perspective, he is one of the greatest actors of all time.
Okay.
He's one of my favourites.
Mike Myers versus Jim Carrey. Who wins?
I mean, it's hard to say.
You don't need to answer that. We can leave it there.
No, it's genuinely hard to say. Like, I would probably put them in the same category.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to like pick one or the other. I would say Jim Carrey, like, over Mike Myers, which just makes me sad inside to even have to pick in the first place.
Okay.
But, you know, he had Pet Detective, like, yeah,
Ace Ventura,
Ace
the
Ventura.
Cable Guy,
yeah.
Truman Show.
That was more serious, wasn't it? Like, that was... I feel like we probably need to stop there because, like, I could go on about this all day. But the last thing I want to leave with that is, like, if you were to only count Jim Carrey for his silly comedy movies, would the comparison still be the same? So that's what I'll leave it at.
This is all nonsense. Yeah, this is not a comparison that holds any water. Either way, the greatest...
We'll chat about this after.
The greatest actor of all time is clearly Vincent Price. And I'm only thinking that because this old fat man's name is Mr. Price.
Oh, okay. Who's Vincent Price?
Who's Vincent Price? Fine, he did the spoken word bit of Thriller.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Took me a second. Is that the only place that you can place him?
No, that's just where I thought you might know him from.
Oh, well, I didn't see his face, though. Anyway.
I spoke to Mr. Price. He admitted he had been greatly attracted by the young woman, but promised...
Shocker.
Yeah, that's not a secret, Mr. Price. But promised not to pester her again.
What, not to follow her around her house? Like, surely that's illegal.
No, just not to pester her.
Okay. I imagine, unfortunately, it could have been harder to charge people with harassment at the time.
I think this case is pretty clear, though, isn't it?
No, just generally, like, I'm not sure what those rules would be like. It was a sexist time.
It was. And the Bobbies were doing half the harassment. He did not keep his word, with the result that the charming widow left. Good on her. He subsequently caused so much trouble by annoying my lady lodgers that I could not have him in the house any longer. He was very angry with me, and declared that when he died he would haunt this house for as long as I was in it. His threat did not worry me in the least, for I did not then believe in ghosts. Mrs. Ball stared incredulously at her. You don't mean to say you believe in ghosts now? Mrs. Smith nodded. I do. The old man died in hospital a year after he left me, and this time he kept his word. You are not the first person who has seen him here. Mrs. Ball laughed. You are not trying to tell me that the horrid old man who has been pestering me is a ghost. It's ridiculous.
Stalking from the grave.
Yeah. And the hallway. And the stairway. And the bedroom. It is nevertheless true, Mrs. Smith said. If you see him again, throw something at him and watch what happens. He will probably appear again, for ladies with lovely red hair like yours, Mrs. Ball, have a particularly strong attraction for him. He can never keep away from them.
Is it possible that instead of renting the room out to women, you could potentially rent it out to single men?
Well, she tried that once before, and look where it got her.
Oh, right. Right. I mean, like, all of them, maybe. I don't know.
It
took me a second. But I got there. I mean, I don't want to victim blame. I'm just trying to figure out, like...
I don't think the landlady's the victim here. I think she's complicit, if anything.
No, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to victim blame in terms of, like, making it the fault of having, like, women... Like,
it's your fault. You're too beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is some sexist bullshit.
But right. She's feeling... I feel like that's kind of like what she's saying in the thing. I'm like, well, could you, like... I mean, if...
You're allowed to stay in my apartment. You just have to dye your hair.
Or, no, I'm just wondering whether or not, like, you know, she could rent it out to people that wouldn't be harassed by the ghost. But the problem, though, is that I don't want her to be biased against people. But what do you do with a ghost? Like, what do you do with a creepy ghost that follows people around? Like, I don't know. It's not like you could, like... Well, I mean, exorcism, I suppose, is, like, the only real option.
It's a potential. Look...
Sage that place.
A solution has been given to her.
Out creepy spirits.
A solution has been presented to her within the story already, though. Were you paying attention? Ooh.
I thought I was.
You'll see.
She dyed her hair.
Mrs. Smith spoke with apparent sincerity, but Mrs. Ball found it impossible to believe that the stout, rubicund old man with what certainly looked like a real white flower in his buttonhole was a ghost. She decided to stay in the house a few days longer, and if she saw him again, to follow Mrs. Smith's counsel and throw something at him. The next day, about 11 o'clock in the morning, she went to her bedroom to fetch something. She was about to enter the room when the door of the large wardrobe facing her suddenly opened, and the rubicund face of the amorous old man peered out of it at her. So he's in the wardrobe now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a clear escalation of threat. Get out of this fucking house.
Is that the only option, right? Like, that's what I was wondering before, you know? Except for, obviously, Sage.
Get out of here with your sage advice.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. Quick on your feet, sir. I mean, like, it's the only thing that I can really think of is Sage or exorcism. I sometimes wonder whether or not exorcism would work, not because of the religious aspect of it, or maybe just like the pure intent.
Yeah, it's telling the ghost in no uncertain terms to fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
She was so startled that she sprang back, shut the door with a bang, and called to Mrs. Smith, who happened to be in a room on that floor. "He's in my room!" Mrs. Ball cried, "hiding in the wardrobe!" Mrs. Smith went into the room at once and searched everywhere. There was no sign of the old man. The sole window was only open a few inches at its top, as it was a very windy day, but there was no other exit except for the door. To get past Mrs. Ball without being seen would have been impossible, and she was close to the door. "Are you convinced now?" Mrs. Smith asked. "Do you still think the old gentleman is a thing of flesh and blood and not a ghost?" Mrs. Ball was obviously shaken. "I don't know what to think. I only know one thing. I can't stay another hour in this house." And she packed up her things and left. She heard that within a year after she had gone, Mrs. Smith sold the house and went to Worthing, her native town. As the amorous old beau had threatened to haunt the Hove house only for as long as Mrs. Smith lived in it, one can presume the haunting by his unwelcome ghost ceased when she moved elsewhere. The end.
First of all, I love the fact that we do the end. Tough.
I know it's a short one, wasn't it?
Tough MVP though. Like everyone's having a tough time in this one.
I think Mrs. Ball eventually made all the right moves. A little late, but look, if she's paid like a month's rent, then I can understand wanting to give it a couple days. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's really an MVP here. Perhaps the ghost for sticking to his word? No, I can't. I cannot in good conscience award this creepy rubicund old man creeping in wardrobes the MVP award. I can't.
I might just go with the MVP of the first person that moved out.
Yeah, okay. I'll pay that.
It's slim pickings, right? Like
it is. There's 3 characters. 3.5.
3.5, and then I chose the half.
What about the old man's tailor? Because he sounds like he's pretty fashionable.
I just blanked out there for a second. What was the resolution?
Oh, the lodger left because she was sick of this shit. Mm. And then the landlady was like, "Well, I'm sick of this shit too," and left.
Okay.
I guess
so. Just everybody left.
Sold the apartments, and
right.
The place wasn't haunted anymore. Presumably.
Somehow I missed that part. I don't know how.
That's fine.
But yeah, so they all just left.
Yep.
So somebody else, presumably, bought the apartment and went through the same shit. Maybe they bulldozed it down.
We don't know anything about it afterwards, so we can only assume that the ghost was true to his word and stopped haunting the place as soon as Mrs. Smith left.
That's what confused me. When did he say he was going to stop doing it?
Before he died.
Okay.
He said he'll haunt the place as long as Mrs. Smith owned it.
Right. That's what you were referring to when you said you heard it, but you didn't...
Yeah, the solution was there all along. Just cut your losses and get out of there.
Right, sorry, I missed that part too. Oh, good. I thought I was attentive, but here I am just not being.
What do you think of someone who curses like that, though? Who's so annoyed at being told not to go chasing after every woman that he sees, that he thinks his retribution is to pledge to haunt the place after he died.
A dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if there's something I've realised about humanity...
There's a lot of dicks.
There's a lot of dicks. A lot of dicks out there. A lot of shitty people.
I've realised the MVP.
And you want me to know my neighbours.
I know who the MVP is.
Okay, who?
Whoever decided that the word Rubicon needs to be said 5 or 6 times. It's fun to say.
Rubicon?
No, that's what Caesar crossed when he became dictator.
Oh, okay.
Rubicund.
Rubicund.
Yep.
Rubicund. So.
The description of Rubicund does give us some idea about what kind of man would stalk a bunch of women and pledge to haunt the place after he's died.
So it doesn't just mean ruby cheeks?
Well, it does, but I would say he's probably a drunk.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's something that can also make people into assholes.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So don't go get drunk and pledge to haunt places after you die, because if you then shortly die, you might get what you wish for.
I will try not to. I will endeavour not to do that, Callum, just so you know. Ooh. You know, it kind of reminds me of the thing that I don't think we often talk about when it comes to ghosts, because the idea of ghosts can be quite creepy, but not because they're just in the room with you or walking through you and giving you a chill.
Because they might have amorous intentions.
No, because they're watching you in the shower, right?
I think that speaks volumes to what you would do if you're a ghost.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Callum.
No.
Indeed, it does, sir.
No. All right, if you could have a superpower, flight or invisibility, which would it be?
I prefer not to say.
Yeah, I thought so. Would you say that you would like another story tonight, though?
Yeah, that would be great. Do you know what the best power would be, though?
Uh-oh.
I reckon it'd be the jumper part. Do you know there's like a movie called Jumper and you could just
Teleport?
Teleport? Yeah, teleportation. That would be great.
That's probably the most practical one, yeah.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler, best X-Man.
Could he teleport?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, why would I even have to ask that? Of course he does. No, I brought him up for fun, Olly. Like, come on.
What if I said no, he can fry an egg perfectly every time? Well, you know what? That's a pretty good superpower too.
That is true. I try daily and fail often.
Eggs. What are you going to do?
Do you know what happened to me the other day, though, is that we started getting more farm eggs, like free range. So we got these nice fresh eggs, and they were like big, and we got a couple of double yolks, and I haven't had them since I was a kid. Nah. I thought it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Well, you know, recently.
What else just came to mind?
I don't know. All I can say is that double yolk egg, just fan-freaking-tastic.
No. Do you remember last episode what you heard might be in this book and really wanted to hear about?
We currently have a noise outside.
We do. We have some construction and yard work going on out there.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a drill, but specifically the type of drill that would go into a tooth.
You're speaking from recent experience.
I am. Yeah. Root canal territory over here.
No. I
could tell you some stories, Callum.
No, I don't want to hear them. Let me tell you a story. The case of Roland Bertin.
Well, that is a mouthful.
It's French.
Oui, oui.
Sacre bleu. No, yeah.
Other French words.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a few of them in this one because this tale is from France. I'm going to do my best.
You can do a French accent?
No.
Oh, I was going to say.
But I will try and pronounce the French names and places as best I can.
Look,
I might. If there are direct quotes, maybe I'll do a little French accent for someone. Completely
up to you. More than I would attempt to achieve, that's for sure.
André Bonavent was it's the English word I struggle with.
Eminently
a man of war. He commanded a schooner called the Bonaventure, which was engaged in harassing the Huguenots.
Ooh, could I intercept that message?
Yes.
I always think it's quite funny with the word schooner because in my mind it sounds quite small, but I'm pretty sure he commanded a warship.
I believe it refers to the amount of masts the ship has, and I think it's 2. But I could be wrong.
Ahoy there! Schooners can have 2 or more masts, but the sails must be rigged parallel rather than perpendicular.
Still like a fairly large ship, right?
Yeah. He's certainly not commanding a glass of beer.
A tiny glass of beer.
Yeah. Only in South Australia. In other places in the world, it's rather larger.
Ah.
Yeah. It's all fucked, isn't it?
To beer.
Anyway, the schooner's called the Bonaventure, which was engaged in harassing the Huguenot settlements along the shores of the Gulf of Lyons during the reign of Louis XIV. How am I going so far?
Good.
Yeah, makes sense? Cool. On one of his marauding expeditions, Bonavent sailed up an estuary of the Rhone, rather farther than he had intended, and having no pilot on board, ran ashore in the darkness. A thunderstorm came on, a general panic ensued, and Bonavent soon found himself struggling in a whirlpool. This is a lot happening on one night for a ship. Odysseus would be...
proud?
Envious? I'm not sure, yeah. Well, I mean, Bonavent has ran aground. That's not good.
Like the whirlpool.
Powerful swimmer though he was, he would most certainly have been drowned had not someone come to his assistance, and, freeing him from the heavy clothes which weighed him down, dragged him on dry land.
So I used to think that I was a strong swimmer.
Yes.
I took professional swimming lessons when I was a kid. Like when I was like 14 or something. Okay. So I entered this swimming competition First swimming competition that I've ever been in my entire life. I launch from the side of the pool.
And drown. You've been a ghost this whole time.
Swimming vigorously towards the end. And as I was going, I felt like I was like passing other swimmers. I thought I was going really, really well. And I thought that my swimming career was about to be launched until I hit the side of the pool.
Was this the backstroke by any chance?
No, but like I hit the side of the pool, not the end of the pool.
Yeah. You've been cutting across lanes.
I've been cutting across lanes. So I was passing people, but they were going the right way.
Oh, no.
Never swum in another swimming competition again. Was not able to face the lanes again. And all I could think about...
hang on. Weren't there those little floaty things?
I was thinking that too, right? Like, why didn't they have like floaty things? But I think it was because we were in like a saltwater pool. It was in Sydney. And they had the saltwater pools, and I'm not sure if it was like
float in saltwater?
Oh, they do. I'm just not sure if they'd be set up. It's not that they couldn't have them. I just think it was like cheap, or they don't fit into that type of pool.
I feel like you were not the only person to have made a mistake in that pool that day.
Everyone else seemed to do fine. Maybe they practiced.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I thought I did. Doesn't matter. Anyway.
The moment Bonavon got on terra firma, sailor-like, he extended his hand to grip that of his rescuer. When, to his dismay and terror, instead of a hand, he grasped a huge hairy paw.
Wow.
Ooh, saucy.
Oh, should it be huge? But should it be more like, wow.
Yeah, sure, that'll do. Nothing starting to come back about last episode?
No.
Okay.
Should I go on?
We'll keep going.
What should it be?
Well, it's not a ghost story.
Okay. Well, this is not a ghost story.
No.
Ooh. I think I know where you're going. Now it's all coming together. Yeah, cool.
Do you want to make a cold shot? I can edit it out if you're wrong.
I think I'm like 100% right that it's a werewolf story.
Hell yeah, it's a werewolf story. Convinced that he was in the presence of the devil, who doubtless highly approved of the 1,001 atrocities he had perpetrated on the helpless Ugnos.
Sorry.
Look, it's spelt Huguenots.
First of all, I'm not one to judge. I wouldn't even attempt it.
And I've got it written phonetically here. I'm still getting it wrong. He threw himself on his knees and implored the forgiveness of heaven. His rescuer waited a while in grim silence, and then, lifting him gently to his feet, led him some considerable distance inland until they arrived at a house on the outskirts of a small town. Here Bonavon's conductor halted and, opening the door, signed to the captain to enter. All within was dark and silent, and the air was tainted with a sickly, pungent odour that filled Bonavon with the gravest apprehensions. Dragging him along, Bonavon's guide took him into a room, and, leaving him there for some seconds, reappeared carrying a lantern. Bonavon now saw for the first time the face of his conductor. It was that of...
a werewolf.
Yes! With a shriek of terror, Bonavon turned to run, but, catching his foot on the mat, fell sprawling onto the floor. Having fun?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Here he remained, sobbing and shaking with fear, till he was once more taken by the werewolf and set gently on his feet.
Oh, what a lovely werewolf.
To Bonavon's surprise, a tray full of eatables was standing on the table, and the werewolf, motioning him to sit down, signed him to eat.
Was it eatables or edibles? Because if it was edibles, I didn't know that werewolf had like a weed dispensary.
You might explain the werewolf.
Ye of little werewolf faith.
No, the word is eatables, which I assume just means like food
yeah.
stuffs. Yeah. I'm also not entirely sure when it says that the werewolf signs him to things, like signs him to enter, signs him to eat, whether that's just sort of gesturing or if he's actually doing sign language, I'm not sure.
I really like some of the old-fashioned words that we encounter sometimes in these books. And I often think there's words that, I wish that we used more often in
the morrow.
Yeah, on the morrow. One of my favourite ones from this story so far is terra firma.
Yes.
Firm ground.
Yep.
I love that. That sounds great.
I wonder if instead of an MVP, we should be picking a MVW, most valuable word from some of these older stories.
Bit of column A, bit of column B.
Yeah. Look, it's no problem doing both.
Would have been easier with words for the last one, that's for sure.
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to call it. There's no MVP for the last story, but there's a most valuable word is rubicund.
Rubicund, yeah. I'm happy to remove my MVP.
And also vote for rubicund?
Yeah, absolutely. Such a rubicund.
No, hang on. I think... What?
Isn't that...
Such a reddish...
Oh, but it was like a drunk, right? Is that
rubicund just means like
ruby
ruddy,
cheeked,
like red-faced.
Right, right. But like you could still refer to someone like that, couldn't you?
It's an adjective.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah. If we're gonna use the old words, we're gonna use them right.
Foiled again by another adjective.
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 Go on, use them proper now.
Like a proper noun.
Hey! Being ravenously hungry, Bonavon fell to, and despite his fears, for being by nature alive, and by reason of his calling forced to guard against the treachery of his fellow creatures, he more than half suspected some subtle design underlying this act of kindness, demolished every particle of food. If you don't want to try and pass that, just means he's worried he might be poisoned, but he ate it anyway. The meal thus concluded, Bonavon's benefactor retired, locking the door after him. No sooner had the sound of his steps in the stone hall ceased than Bonavon ran to the window, hoping thereby to make his escape. But the iron bars were too firmly fixed. No matter how hard he pulled, tugged and wrenched, they remained as immovable as ever. Then his heart began to palpitate, his hair to bristle up and his knees to totter. His thoughts were full of speculations as to how he would be killed and what it would feel like to be eaten alive. Now, that is a pretty horrifying thought.
So do you think he's just getting fattened up?
Maybe. I think there's certain corners of the internet that would be kind of into that, but less said about them, the better.
Hansel and Gretel groups?
Sure, yeah, that'll do. Wonderful. Moving on. His conscience, too, rising up in judgment against him, added to his own paroxysms of dismay, paroxysms which were still further augmented by the finding of the dead body of a woman, nude and horribly mutilated, lying doubled up and partly concealed by a curtain.
Don't worry about her. She was rude.
I think this werewolf's just got a thing for manners, Hannibal Lecter style.
Absolutely.
He's cooking for someone. You know what? Yeah. Huh.
What did you think about my stew? Well, I could use a little bit of salt. Salt?
Oh, no. I know what strange direction this story goes in, and we're already in parts unknown. Such a discovery could not fail to fill his heart with unspeakable horror. For he concluded that he himself, unless saved by a miracle, a favour he could hardly hope for considering his past conduct, would undergo the same fate before morning. At a loss to know what else to do, he sat upon the counter of the table, resting his chin on the palms of his hands, and engaged in anticipations of the most frightful nature. Shortly after dawn, he heard the sound of footsteps approaching the room. The door slowly began to open, a little wider and a little wider, and then, when Bonavon's heart was on the point of bursting, it suddenly swung open wide, and the cold, grey dawn falling on the threshold revealed not a werewolf, but a human being. A man in the unmistakable garb of an Huguenot minister.
Okay. Is that like from a religious title, kind of like a minister, or not like a minister of state? No.
No, it means
not like a
priest.
yes minister.
No, no minister. Priest minister.
Priest minister. I mean, that's what I've assumed, but good to be clear.
Oh, sorry, I should have, and maybe I'll drop this in earlier. Huguenot is a people who live just in the area around the River Rhone.
Yeah, no, I just assumed,
Yeah.
honestly. But
So-
good to clarify.
So there's nothing particularly strange about this minister, aside from the fact that he's not a werewolf.
Well, not now.
The reaction was so great that Bonavon rolled off the table and went into paroxysms of ungovernable laughter. Now, we've used it 3 times. Do you know what a paroxysm is?
No. I mean, I know what a proxy is from a technical perspective.
Paroxysm is a fit.
Well, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah. So he's in a fit of ungovernable laughter.
Right.
At length, when he had sobered down, the Huguenot, laying a hand on his shoulder, said, "Do you know now where you are? Do you reckon..." Sorry, no, he's meant to be French, isn't he? "Do you know now where..." No.
Please go on.
Do you know now where you are? Do you recognize this room? No? Well, I will explain.
You'll never expect... No, that's right. It's different, isn't it?
Nobody expects the
Spanish
French
and-
werewolf. You are in the house of Roland Bertin, and the body lying over yonder.
What is this voice?
One of the best French accents I've heard in my life.
I
That's
don't
what
even
it
think
is.
it's French anymore.
Close enough. I mean, I'm like... You definitely don't have to do it, and if it's hard to maintain, I get that. But it is funny as hell.
I've just scanned the rest of the story.
Goes on a bit.
No, but it is almost all quotes from this man.
Well, that's kind of what I meant by... Yeah. No, that's fine. Drop it. It's but that was great. Love it.
None. And the body lying over yonder is that of my wife, whom your crew barbarously murdered yesterday when they sacked this village. They took me with them, and it was your intention to have me tortured, and then drowned as soon as you got to sea. Do you know me now?
Bonavon nodded. He could not have spoken to save his life.
Bien, the minister went on. I am a werewolf. I was bewitched some years ago by the woman Grenier.
The rather violent minister. Hardly a man of the cloth.
Well, he was a minister before he was a werewolf.
But he's clearly still wearing the garb.
Yeah, what else is he going to put on?
I was quite proud of myself for the use of the word garb there, actually.
Yeah, I like it.
Just pat myself on the back.
Also, apologies, I pronounced the woman's name wrong. It is
Grenier.
I could clearly tell.
Mère Grenier,
Merde.
who lives in the forest at the back of our village. As soon as it was dark, I metamorphosed. Then the ship ran ashore and everyone leapt overboard.
It's gone Spanish, and I don't know how to get back to French, so I'm just going to stop.
Okay.
I saw you drowning. I saved you. The captain again made a fruitless effort to speak, and the Huguenot continued.
Why did I save you?
I mean, after sacking his village and everything, yeah, like, good points well made.
You who had been instrumental in murdering my wife and ruining my home? Why, I do not know. Had I preferred you for a less pleasant death than drowning, I could have taken you ashore and killed you. Yet I did not, because it is not in my nature to destroy anything.
It's gone Caribbean now.
I mean, you were going to stop.
I was.
It just jumped straight back in. I didn't know what a Caribbean accent would be.
Well, I'm not going to try and demonstrate that because it's going to get worse.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's fair.
Yet I did not, because it is not in my nature to destroy anything. I have never in my life killed an animal, nor, to my knowledge, an insect. That's a big claim, isn't it?
I mean, I've killed a lot of flies in my time.
Animal life and vegetable life, everything that breathes and grows. Yet I am a Huguenot, one of the race you hate and despise and are paid to exterminate.
So every now and again, like I've killed spiders in my time. You know, I've definitely killed like 100 or 200 spiders in my time, right? And sometimes,
None of them have ever come back at you as a were spider.
not yet. I remember I was just randomly found literally the tiniest little spider that was in my suitcase the other day, and I was just able to kill it just by poking it with my finger. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of funny that I found, my wife found, and then came and got me quite quickly, a massive spider in our door the other day.
In your door?
Yeah, in the door. It wasn't
like in the door frame?
in the door frame. So it hadn't gotten into the house.
Okay.
It was on the other side of the door frame, but it was I don't know, the size of my hand. It was huge.
Okay. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I reckon it would have been the size of my hand spread out. I have quite big hands, by the way. And
brag it.
Is that a braggable thing? Oh, I've got big hands.
Well, you know what they say about men with big hands.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. Anyway, I saw this big.
They can hold lots of things.
Okay.
Not letting you get away with that.
I wasn't going to agree. I was absolutely going to agree. I can hold some stuff. Anyway, spider, big as my hand, massive spider, and it was kind of like a hairy spider as well,
like a huntsman.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it was a huntsman. I'm bigger, maybe slightly different color. Anyway, it was so big that I couldn't even imagine killing it. Do you know what I mean? Though it was so big that it felt like a little animal. And I just it just felt like the idea, and I didn't.
Once they reach a certain size,
yeah, it was it didn't really feel like an insect anymore. It felt like a small pet, you know.
Oh my God.
I did manage to shake it into a jar, and then I just relocated it somewhere else. So I didn't. No spiders were harmed in this one story.
Okay.
But it was just funny. I couldn't even just the idea of harming the spider just seemed really, really cruel. Whereas a couple of weeks back, I saw a couple of redbacks in my yard and they're smashed easy.
Redbacks should die.
Yeah. Beautiful breed of spider though, just gorgeous. But I just for the bush, not in the backyard. Anyway,
to my earlier point, what would you, in your mind, what is conjured when I say a were spider? Would it be quite a large spider that has come to hunt you down in your house that's big and hairy?
Mm-hmm. Or
the one that did?
Oh no! Well, it would have to be a lot bigger than that if it was a were spider, right? In my mind, a were spider would be a human that's turned into a spider, because that's what a werewolf is, right? And it's funny.
Oh, good point. Okay, a spider wolf then.
A spider wolf.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's still thinking about a spider the size of a wolf. The idea of harming that spider, at that size, just seems cruel, you know? Hurting a puppy or something, you know? It's I feel like my wife would have seen it in a very different way. I mean, she's a little bit arachnophobic, so she was, petrified.
That's fair. So where'd you take it? Your in-laws' house?
No, just to the front garden and put it onto the tree.
Okay.
Yeah, so not even that far away, really.
Does she know that it's there?
I didn't tell her where I put it, no. I
she doesn't listen.
I could have put it across the street, admittedly.
Olly's wife, if you are listening, send us an email. Links in the description.
I wonder what spider it was. I might look that up later.
Tarantula.
Not in Australia, though. Unless it escaped from...
Could have been someone's pet.
Yeah, it could have been.
Maybe that's why it felt like you'd be killing a pet, because it was someone's pet.
Okay, so this would be my point, right? Could you imagine killing a tarantula? Have you seen those things? They're so
pretty big.
Yeah, could you imagine killing it though, right? It just doesn't at that size, doesn't it just kind of seem a little cruel?
Well, a normal spider you can kill with a regular shoe, right? Mm-hmm. But a tarantula, I don't know. Is that why they make clown shoes?
I mean, the sack on the back was the size of a golf ball.
Jesus.
Do you know what I mean?
I want to find this spider on my way out of here.
But yeah, so I was just thinking to myself, the range of what I have for what I think is okay to kill.
Well, that's about to come up, in fact. Because...
interestingly enough, I realised that flies got no issue with killing. I was admiring some of the big bees that I was watching pollinate the flowers out the front. I was like, couldn't imagine hurting those.
That's because bees do a good job.
Yeah.
Flies do a good job of pissing me off. Assassin, I have spared you. Be not ungenerous. Spare others. The captain was moved. Still speechless, he seized the minister's hands and wrung them. From that hour to the day of his death, which was not for many years afterward, the Huguenots had no truer friend than Andre Bonavent. The end.
Well, that was quick and pleasant.
Yeah, there you go. It's the least scary werewolf story in this book.
Yeah, no, I love that. That was really great.
I know we got terribly distracted there, but...
Sorry about that.
No. That's never apologise.
Okay, because it just felt like a real sidetrack day. I think sometimes it's a sign of me being in a good mood when I love a good sidetrack, I think. Well, look, I think the MVP of that last story would be the minister, because what a dude. And my MVP word/phrase was terra firma.
Terra firma? Fair enough. I think we need to come up with a better word for most valuable word. Most...
Not MVN.
MRW? Most
word?
repeatable word?
Most repeatable MRW. Is that right?
Yeah.
Most repeatable word?
No, this might be wrong.
MRW. Coming straight at you.
Maybe we'll figure this one out off air. Maybe before next recording, I'll come up with a good category, a good award title for the words.
The Word Awards.
Oh, I mean that'll do. The word award.
Can I do the voice every time? The Word Awards.
You can do it as many times as you like.
Welcome to the Word Awards, and we've got plenty of words on. No, I've lost it. Plenty of words to choose from today in various categories. Yeah, no. Word Awards, I love it.
I think mine's proxyism.
Proxyism. Yeah. I think that's a great word, and I also think it was really interesting because it's not one I would have picked, because I know the word proxy, and it's funny because I'm not really sure of like how to even describe the word proxy without using like a technical like...
proxy is a stand-in for something else.
Yeah, but proxyism?
Well, it's actually paroxysm.
Paroxysm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe that explains it.
I don't think there's really any connection between the two.
But having a fit, huh?
Yeah. We've eventually just used the word fit, which is actually considerably easier to say than paroxysm.
Proxyism. Proxyism. I'm acting like I'm going to use this word in my general
if you
vernacular.
see someone have like an attack of epilepsy in like a shopping mall or whatever, you're probably not going to call out, quick, this person's having a paroxysm.
Probably
so
not.
This person's having a fit. We get it.
Very clear and concise.
Yeah. Now, I've Googled Andre Bonavent and I can't find any record of this man whatsoever. I don't think this story really happened, but...
Bullshit.
But perhaps I could
this
do some
heartwarming story? Oh my god.
Slightly more in-depth Google through. Or, if someone out there in our listeners does know the case of Roland Bertin and Andre Bonavent, please send us an email. Links in the description. I think I'm going to agree with you that the werewolf is the MVP of the story.
Absolutely. So malevolent.
What?
But did the
He's
werewolf...
not malevolent.
Is that
Anything but.
Right. Did the werewolf, kill the girl, though?
No. Andre Bonavent's men killed the girl.
Oh, right.
He and his pirate friends attacked the village last night.
So you just carried this woman's dead body to throw in the room, or...?
No, I think she...
Oh, she was already there.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's still lying where she died.
Ah.
And also separately, for some reason, this priest was
He did say
cursed
she was
by the village witch.
Right, sure. He did say she was, mauled, though. Mauled by people.
I think she was just lying in a puddle of blood.
I could have swore it was
But
mauled.
people are the real monsters.
Oh,
the most valuable lesson of today.
Right, of course we knew that all along, people. Or, children.
Oh, it's worse. She was... the dead body of a woman nude and horribly mutilated. I think she's
mutilated.
These
That's what I
pirates
was
really...
thinking of.
Yeah, but I think...
Hard to say what mutilated really means, doesn't it?
I think we know what nude means, though, and it's not good.
Yeah, let's leave that there.
Yeah. Her husband sure did, for some reason. Just left her under a curtain.
Maybe we should leave that there for the... and maybe we could see you again next time on...
Second-hand haunting. Look at you doing an outro.